Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 2 of Diverse Sci-Fi and Fantasy Stories podcast. I'm your host, author Alicia McCalla. Thanks for tuning in. This podcast is all about me honoring my son and sharing my diverse science fiction and fantasy stories with the world. Okay, grief is hard. As a surviving parent, I know I have a ton of guilt over not being able to protect my boy from harm. I oftentimes dream of being out there with him on that Navy vessel, well, to save him. That made me think about all of the books, shows, and movies describing the end of the world. As parents, we often feel it's our duty to protect our children. How do parents protect their children when the world has literally ended? I thought it would be interesting to see a mom in a post-apocalyptic world faced with trying to protect her child. Here's my flash fiction short, The Superhero Baby Boy. John wrapped her baby boy tight around the front of her body, trying to keep him warm. He was all she had left, and she'd do her best to protect him from harm. A bitter chill was in the air, and she needed to make it back to the cabin quickly. She adjusted the straps on the backpack filled with groceries. Since the world ran out of gas, life was harder, and she needed to walk 5 miles to get supplies. She looked up at the gray sky. "Looks like snow, little man." She kissed his tiny brown forehead. John was a mom, and her life was very different. A few months ago, her identity had been a blurred or black nerd. She spent her life living in Metro ATL, YouTubing, and working as a professional gamer. She studied at Clark Atlanta University, a prominent HBCU or historically black college. And while there, went to an event at Georgia Tech. That's where she met Jamal. His gorgeous light brown eyes, muscled chest, and dark chocolate skin were a distraction. She laughed. He'd been her good luck charm, though. That day, she took the #1 seat in a major competition. All kinds of gaming companies wanted her after that. She was good at what she did. "We'll be back at the cabin soon." She checked to make sure her son was securely fastened to her chest. John chuckled, remembering. Those geeky white boys couldn't outdo her. She always won. Always. And they would sit there looking stupid, wondering how the black chick from Detroit beat the pants off of him. Jamal was always her biggest cheerleader. Yep, my life is very different, she thought. John looked down at her outfit. Out in the middle of nowhere, wearing hiking boots, a flannel shirt, long johns, and oversized jeans. She adjusted the tiny green hat down on the top of her son's head. She had to keep him safe for Jamal. The day the Krava aliens invaded Earth and took control of all the cities changed her life forever. Any humans within the boundaries became slaves and were treated to a brutal life of servitude in the subway mines. Thankfully, John met Jamal a couple of years before. She didn't know then he was a super being, an alien called Dwin. His family had escaped the Kravas and had come to Earth to start a new life. One night, Jamal busted into her apartment and told her that she'd have to leave Atlanta as quickly as possible. She was confused and didn't understand why. John refocused her thoughts back to the present and studied the sky again. A snowstorm was brewing. She could feel it in her bones. She needed to get them back to the cabin soon, but she still had 3 miles left. John's boots crunched on the ground as she moved quicker. She reached a stretch of land that Bill, Jamal's friend, had told her to avoid because he saw one hungry wolf the other day. She searched the land. Mostly pines and a few bushes. Nope, no wolves. Surely she could cut 30 minutes off of her long walk and be home before the snow. She had a weapon, and if needed, a few bullets tucked away in her fanny pack. She could easily pull it out and shoot a warning shot. That was sure to scare one wolf away. She thought about her gaming days. She was always good at adventures. She didn't have a lot of real weapon experience, but she was sure she was a perfect shot. A big snowflake floated to the ground. John looked up, studying the sky. The snow was almost here. John tugged the hat down on her baby boy's head a second time. He looked so much like Jamal. Her son, half human, half Dwyn. How was she going to keep him safe without his father? Her heart ached. She missed Jamal. They'd been inseparable. Her friends would make jokes about John and Jamal all the time. When Jamal told her her world was changing and she had to go as far as she could into the wilderness to be safe from harm, she didn't know what to think. Had he hit his head? Did someone do something to him? John didn't believe what he was saying. Jamal stopped, raised his hand, and a green ball of light formed. Then he lifted off the ground and flew. Jamal flew like Superman. "I am Dwyn," he said. "I am honor-bound to fight against the Kravas and protect the innocent." She almost fainted. In a matter of minutes, Jamal packed up her car, gave her all the gear she needed, and told her he would meet her at a rest stop off the highway. But if he didn't come, that she should keep going to the cabin at the address in her Google Maps. His friend Bill would be there to help her. Jamal looked at her lovingly and told her to live. Remembering their last kiss shook her soul. It all happened so fast. She didn't get a chance to tell him she was 2 months pregnant. Jamal never knew. Then, after she'd made it to the cabin, Bill told her Jamal was one of the first freedom fighters and was killed trying to save people during the invasion. At first, she didn't believe him. Where was his proof? Jamal would have done his best to find her, to be with her. Bill showed her the footage. John watched it over and over again until finally the internet stopped working. She thought her grief broke it, but the Kravas issued an interplanetary statement saying Earth had been commandeered and all forms of unofficial communications were terminated. John was devastated. Apparently, Bill knew Jamal was an alien. He told her to keep her baby's alien identity a secret. From what she knew about Jamal, the Dwyns hid themselves well on Earth. Now John was all alone in a wilderness community of human resistance fighters who were hell-bent on killing as many aliens as they could in retaliation for what had been done to their world. She couldn't blame them for not trusting anyone who wasn't human, but she had to be extra careful. Hopefully, her little Omari would always look more human than Dwyn. But how would she keep him safe from the Kravas and the human resistance fighters? A crunching sound in front of her made her stop. White wolves. John counted a pack of 9 wolves, not 1. Shit. She only had 6 bullets. Big snowflakes fell easily now. The storm was here. Omari cried. "It's okay, baby boy. Mama's gonna protect you." John had to think quickly. "Let's scream together." John jumped up and down, then held her arms high in the air like she was taller, bigger, and then yelled at the top of her lungs. She wanted the wolves to view her as if she was a bear. Well, at least scarier than she looked. A few of the wolves stopped and backed away, but the leader stared at her with an unusual awareness, teeth bared, ready to pounce. The other wolves joined in and they looked hungry, starving. They wouldn't go away easily. She could shoot a warning shot, but that might not work. No. Her gamer instincts told her that she'd have to get rid of as many as she could. John slowly moved one hand from cradling her boy and unzipped her fanny pack. Then she easily removed her handgun. John didn't want to kill anything, but she would if they attacked. She wondered again if that warning shot would help, but she didn't want to waste the bullets. Would the wolf pack scatter? That leader looked determined. Her stomach knotted and her hand shook. Giant snowflakes came down harder, adding a new layer to the hardened snow on the ground. The wolves maneuvered around her slowly. John scanned the area. Two flanked her from behind. She took a deep breath, loading her weapon. She couldn't let them see fear. John steadied her shooting hand by supporting it with her other hand, then flipped the safety and aimed. The wolves advanced. They showed no fear. John shot the first one. Bang! The shot was loud, reverberating up her arms. The animal collapsed. She breathed then, turning in a circle, taking the second, third, fourth, fifth, then the last round, her breath hitching each time. John stopped. Her ears rang. Was it over? She won, just like playing her games. 6 shots, 6 wolves dead. Their blood staining the ground, but immediately covered by the increased snowfall. Omari wailed. John dropped her hands and returned the safety. She slipped the handgun back into her fanny pack. John returned from gaming mode to mama mode. "It's okay, baby boy," she soothed her son, wiping the extra snow from his face. She studied the wolves around her. Hopefully the other wolves scattered. Growls from behind her made the hair on the back of her neck rise. John swung around. The leader's eyes now blazed crava blue. The leader was a hybrid. He bared his teeth. Then the 2 other wolves formed behind him. Double shit. John breathed deep and thought about Jamal. If she couldn't live, then she would damn well make sure their boy survived. John would die protecting their son. She would keep their baby safe at all costs, even if it meant sacrificing herself. John dropped to her knees. She didn't think she could stop the leader and remaining wolves from attacking, but she had to protect her baby. Snow fell in buckets now, the snowstorm in full form. Omari continued to cry. John soothed him as much as she could as she curled in a ball, shielding his body with hers. Hopefully Bill would check and see she wasn't in the cabin and search for them and would find Omari wrapped in her arms, safe from harm. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird." John closed her eyes, waiting for the white wolves to attack. Omari stopped crying. It was eerily quiet. John opened her eyes. Omari's skin radiated and his eyes were a deep green instead of brown like hers. He'd formed a protective green bubble around them. Her heart pounded in her ears. She sat up. The wolves had attacked but hit his force field, and they'd scurried away. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" John cradled Omari. Then the force field disappeared. There was nothing left except a few snow flurries. "Son, what did you do?" She kissed the top of his head. Omari cooed, smiling at her. Jean laughed too. Omari had saved them. "Son, all of this time, I was worried about protecting you, and you protected me." She stood up. Her heart warmed. and she whispered, "I see your father in you." I'm author Alicia McCalla, and I write science fiction and fantasy stories for readers who want diverse protagonists and unique storylines. In order to support myself financially as a full-time writer, I need 20,000 readers to sign up for my newsletter to get updates, learn about my latest projects, and purchase my diverse sci-fi and fantasy stories. If you're already one of my subscribers, thank you so much. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think might enjoy it. And if you haven't signed up, but would love to support me and my work, please visit www.aliciamccalla.com to sign up today. Okay, until next time, live long and prosper. And thanks for listening.